Hi friends, welcome to Children's Chapel. Today is the 5th Sunday in Lent. So we are going to get started by lighting our candle. And so if you have a candle at home with an adult's help, you can light your candle with me. And we're going to say, why do we light the candle? To remind us that God is with us. Next, we are going to pray together, but in order to get our hearts and our minds and our bodies ready to talk to God, we are going to use the singing bowl. We're going to put our hand in the air. I'm going to ring the bowl. We're going to listen with our ears, and when we can't hear the sound anymore, we're going to put our hand down, and then we will pray the Lord's Prayer together. So, hands up. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. All right, next we are going to sing a song with Jimmy.
Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Great singing, everybody. All right, next we are going to do our ritual of water. And so if you would like to follow along at home, you will need a bowl, a small cup of water, and maybe something to dry your hands off with. So we are going to pour the water into the bowl to remind us of our baptism. We are baptized with water, and at our baptism we are reminded that we belong to God and that we are loved by God. And so I invite you to touch the water and to say, God loves me. And anyone who's watching the video should do the same. After you've done that, I invite you to look at someone else who is with you and to remind them that God loves you. It's important to remind ourselves of God's love, it's important to remind others of God's love, and it's important to practice. Next, we are going to listen to our story. Last week, we heard the story of the Last Supper, which happens on the Thursday before Easter. And we hear about how Jesus spent his time with his friends, the disciples, before the events that take place leading up to Easter. And so we saw Jesus wash the disciples' feet and share the bread and the wine with them. And we learn a lot about the things that Jesus asked us to do, to serve others and to remember him in the bread and the wine, which we share every week during communion. So at the end of that story, it mentions that Jesus is going out into the garden to pray. And so this story is a continuation of that. So here's the story of Good Friday.
Good Friday. This story comes from the Bible. The Bible has 66 different books inside of it. 4 of the books tell us about Jesus' life. They are called the Gospels. This story can be found in all 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. After they have finished supper, Jesus and the disciples go out into the garden to pray. Meanwhile, the high priests are plotting against Jesus. They do not like that he is so popular with the people. They offer one of the disciples, Judas, money if he will help them arrest Jesus. Judas agrees. He leads a group of soldiers into the garden. He knows that Jesus will be there. Jesus knows that Judas will do this. He is not surprised to see his disciple with the soldiers. "Who are you looking for?" Jesus asks them. A soldier replies, "Jesus of Nazareth." "I am Jesus," he replies. The soldiers arrest Jesus. The soldiers take Jesus to see a man called Caiaphas. He is one of the high priests. Caiaphas and the other high priests ask Jesus lots of questions. They want to know about his friends and the way that he teaches. "I speak openly. I teach in the temples. People listen. Ask them about what I teach," Jesus replies. The high priests do not like what Jesus has to say. They send him over to the governor. Pontius Pilate is the governor. He asks Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "My kingdom is not of this world," Jesus tells him. Pilate asks again, "So you are a king?" "You say that I am," Jesus replies. "I was brought into this world to bring the truth." The soldiers give Jesus a crown made of thorns to wear. They do this to make fun of him. Pilate speaks to the crowd about Jesus. "It is our custom to let a prisoner go at Passover. Should I let Jesus of Nazareth go? I have found no case against him." "No," the crowd shouts, "crucify him. He says he is the Son of God. Crucify him." Jesus carries his own cross to a place called Golgotha. The cross is very heavy. Jesus falls down a few times along the way. A man called Simon of Cyrene is passing by. He stops to help Jesus carry the cross for a little while. When they get to Golgotha, Jesus is hung on the cross. 2 others are put on crosses next to him. Mary, Jesus' mother, is there. She is with Mary Magdalene and Mary, the wife of Clopas. They cry as they look at Jesus. Jesus knows the time has come for him to die. "I am thirsty," he says. A soldier dips a sponge into sour wine. He puts it on a stick so that Jesus can drink. After drinking the sour wine, Jesus says, "It is finished." He bows his head and gives up his spirit to God. Jesus dies. With permission from Pontius Pilate, a wealthy man named Joseph of Arimathea removes Jesus' body from the cross. Joseph is one of Jesus' disciples. Another disciple, Nicodemus, joins Joseph. He brings expensive spices and a linen to wrap Jesus' body. This is a Jewish custom for burial. There is a tomb in a garden nearby. Joseph and Nicodemus lay Jesus inside. A large stone is rolled in front of the tomb. A soldier is placed nearby so that nothing happens to Jesus' body. The story continues with the events at Easter. The end.
All right, so there is a lot that happens in this story. We see Jesus working his way toward the cross as well as finally dying on the cross. Now you may be wondering why it is called Good Friday. And it's an interesting name when what happens is so sad. But it is good because we know that death is not final for Jesus. We know that in a few days Jesus is going to rise again and live again and be among the disciples again in a little bit of a different way than he has been. But we know that this death is not final. So we call it Good Friday because we know that Easter is coming. And so in this story of Good Friday, we follow Jesus as he walks toward dying on the cross. We see him in the garden with the disciples, and We see Judas coming and handing him over to the soldiers. And I wonder, how is Jesus reacting or acting during all of this? What was his reaction when Judas handed him over to the soldiers? What was Jesus's reaction or actions when the crowd was yelling, "Crucify him, crucify him"? And Pontius Pilate even said, "I don't have a case against him." And how was Jesus when, right before he died? What was he like during all of this? I wonder what you think Jesus was like during all this and what it must have been like for him to be doing this. Now, one of the things we know is that Jesus knew that this was coming. I know that probably didn't make it easier, but he knew that this was something that he had to do, despite all of these things that he had done. And he knew that Judas was going to betray him and that he was eventually going to have to die for all of us. And so I wonder what that says about Jesus and God. What does that tell us about who they are? It's an important piece of the story and understanding who God is and who Jesus is. And so we are actually going to continue, not with the story, we won't be doing Easter story next week. We're going to backtrack a little bit and do the Palm Sunday story, because next week is Palm Sunday. And then on Easter Sunday, we will hear all about what happens on Easter with the resurrection. So, all right, that is all the time that we have for Children's Chapel today. We are going to blow out the candle and say goodbye. But remember, when we blow out the candle, that doesn't mean that God is no longer with us. It just means that our reminder is no longer there, because God is always with us. Bye, friends. Have a great week.